Is this working?
Yes.
Okay. It's a great pleasure to be with you here this morning. Before I get started, I just want to tell you a little story. Last year on December the 20th, I was trying to send an email to a friend of mine whose name is Betty Cruz. She lives in northern Alberta, thanking her for a calendar that she had sent to me for Christmas. Her initials are VK, and for years all that I had to do was enter VK into the address line to send Betty an email. I did that and clicked the send button without looking at what I had typed. However, over the previous few weeks, I've been emailing back and forth to your president, Bruce Cadden, whose initials are also VK. And for that reason, my thank you message was sent to Bruce before I realized it. Not only did Bruce receive an email thanking him for a calendar he knew nothing about, but the message also included the very best wishes for a Merry Christmas. Not the message one normally sends to a rabbi. Anyway, Bruce was very understanding, and I did finish it up by saying Happy Hanukkah. I think I was 3 days late for Hanukkah. We laughed about that particular exchange. When district governors visit the clubs in their district each year, there are several topics that they talk about. Some of those are obligatory topics, such as the foundation and the membership in the organization, and also the theme for the current Rotary International President's Year. So I'll certainly touch on those, and I'll talk about 2 or 3 other items that are my favorite items. So first, the Rotary Foundation, and that foundation and the money that is donated to the foundation is the very basis of the amount of donations and funding that we are able to give to the projects that we support, both locally and around the world. It's very important, that money that is given to the annual giving fund. I had the opportunity to visit a city in Ghana a few years ago, 3 years ago, where the projects that are sponsored by the Rotary Club of Nanaimo on Vancouver Island. And they included a school and an orphanage and water wells that were being drilled, and it certainly gave me the opportunity to see firsthand what the benefits are of the foundation dollars that were given as matching grants for those projects. I'm a great believer in donations to the foundation, and it was very nice to see the foundation this morning. Your club is obviously a great supporter of the foundation, and those dollars are extremely important. I also am not a believer in pounding the table and demanding more money, because I think it's up to each individual in Rotary, and most of them are very generous in their support of that giving fund. Polio Plus is another Rotary fund that is extremely important and has been strongly supported over the past number of years by all Rotarians. And the amount of money given to polio has taken away to some degree money from the annual giving fund. So that means our return money for grants has been dropped to some degree, but of course both those funds are extremely important. Talking about foundation matching grants and polio brings up one of my favorite topics, and I think one of the most rewarding experiences that a person, a Rotarian, can have is visiting an overseas project like the National Immunization Day. And most of you know Ezra Kasomi from Seattle, a past district governor who supports and puts on a trip each year to Ethiopia. Ezra is Ethiopian, and many Rotarians have gone on those trips. My past president, Audrey Bartel, and the incoming president, Susan Wilkie, went on that trip last November, and they came back with some very touching stories about having administered polio drops to small children and babies. And another story I heard from a district governor in California, one of my district governor classmates, was about a trip that she made to Nigeria. And she was leaving the airport in Lagos after having been on the polio trip, and she had a vest on that talked about ending polio. And a man at the airport asked her if she believed in immunization. And she said, yes, I do. Why, he asked. Well, she said, my doctor told me it was extremely important to protect my children from diseases that they might come into contact with. And then she said to him, 6 weeks ago, when I was planning my trip to Nigeria, I had to explain to my grandchildren what polio was. And my fervent wish for you is that when you become a grandparent in 20 years, you will have to explain to your grandchildren what polio was in Nigeria. I thought that was a great way of putting it. Rotary's efforts regarding the eradication of polio received a big boost last fall when polio was declared eradicated in East Asia and in India. And the news outlets, CNN and Reuters and The Guardian, covered that very extensively. And I encountered one issue on a more local way, and I was in my sister's home in Vancouver on the 3rd of January, and I was reading the local paper. And in the paper, there was an editorial on polio eradication in Afghanistan and Pakistan. And the article read, the editorial read, "This progress would not have been possible without support from international partners such as Rotary International, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and donor governments." And I was in Vancouver that morning on my way to Seattle to meet with some fellow district governors-elect at the time, and we were meeting at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation offices in Seattle. So you can rest assured I did take that editorial with me, and I gave it to those people at the foundation who were so supportive of our efforts to end polio. It was kind of nice, and it was nice to see the recognition given in the paper of Rotary and the Gates Foundation. Often we don't see that. In past RI President Cliff Dochterman's book, as I was saying, he asks a very interesting and insightful question, and that is, when did you become a real Rotarian? And I think my moment came when I was on that trip to Ghana that I talked about, and I was sitting on the steps of an orphanage with about 10 young children that were orphans, and those of us from Nanaimo realized that those young people, they all had their arms around each other. We realized that that's all that they had in the world was each other. It was a very moving moment, and it was nice to think that we were helping the young people out at that time, and I think that's when I sort of felt that I became a real Rotarian, because looking at what Rotary was doing. And some of you may have had similar experiences. I do always talk about the idea of taking trips like that, taking a polio NID trip, or a trip to visit the foundation, or at least the project that the foundation is supporting, and lots of people do that. And I encourage you to do that if you have the opportunity. It changes your lives when you happen to see those things firsthand. Membership, that's another topic that we like to discuss because it's an important topic. Many of you know the figures that we now have 1.2 million Rotary members, and 7 years ago we had 1.2 million Rotary members, and in that intervening period of time we've lost 1.2 million Rotary members. So we have to make sure that we engage our new members in the clubs and make sure that they are enjoying their experience as a Rotarian. My club has a little questionnaire that we give to Rotarians after they've been in the club about 10 months, and it asks 4 questions. Number 1, has your experience as a member of our Rotary Club been what you expected when you joined our club? If not, please let us know why not. Do you feel that you are welcome to our club meetings and are being included in all club activities? Would you like to be more involved at a committee level in our club? And please advise what else we can do to make your membership in our club and in Rotary more rewarding and enjoyable. And I think if you can catch problems with new members early on in their membership, you can get them back on the track, and they'll be members for a long time. A couple of other quick thoughts about Rotary. Cliques in Rotary clubs do not make new Rotarians or members feel comfortable. Younger members will be inclined to bring in more younger members into your club. And the last, of course, I think the best thing that ever happened to Rotary was when they, in 1987, they opened it up to women membership. I think that was an enormous change in our club. Another question that must be posed is, are you asking people you know to join Rotary? Many of you will either know or have heard of Christy Govertson, who is from Portland, Oregon. And Christy speaks to Rotary clubs all over the Northwest about membership and membership growth. And in an article about Christy by David Sarasan in the October 2013 Rotarian, there was an amazing statistic, and it was that strong research had shown that only 15% of Rotary members ever propose anyone else for membership. 15%. Does that mean the other 85% of Rotary members have no friends? Not Rotarians? I don't think that's the case in this club, with the possible exception of Bob Resbach. I do know that Bob has at least one friend. Recently, a priest moved into his neighborhood. The first morning the priest woke up in his new residence, he looked out, and there was a dead donkey on the front lawn. The priest thought, what do I do now? And then he thought, I know Bob Resbach. He's big in Rotary, and he can help. And he called Bob. He explained the situation and asked Bob if Bob could give him advice on how to dispose of the donkey. Bob thought for a moment and then said, Father O'Malley, I thought that dealing with the departed was your line of work, giving the last rites and so on. After a pause, Father O'Malley said to Bob, You were quite right, Mr. Respa, but the reason I'm calling you is before I administer the last rites, I always contact the next of kin. One of the cardinal rules of Rotary is you don't tease the fine master. He's already performed his duties, I'm glad. Anyway, think of all of the business people in the community and others who are potential members. I know in my part of the world of Vancouver Island, and I know in a lot of the Western Washington, there are a lot of retired people that come in from across the country, and they have potential for quite a few years of service, and we certainly take advantage of that. A couple of other things about membership. There have been changes made in membership to try and expand the opportunities. One is a corporate membership, one is a satellite membership, and one is a family membership. When I was in Campbell River, a young woman was at the meeting, and she had 2 young children, and she said, we joined as a family member, and my husband comes one week and I come the other week. So that opens that opportunity up quite well. And nowadays there's an awful lot less emphasis on rigid attendance requirements. In the March 2014 Rotarian magazine, RI President Gary Wong said, some qualified people say they are too busy to attend weekly meetings. We should tell them they don't have to attend all the meetings, that they can participate in service whenever they can. And I read into that clubs should make their attendance requirements meet the needs of their members rather than necessarily the needs of a policy that's written in the manual. And I know a lot of clubs do that. My club, many people leave for weeks in the winter for heading south, and they're good members when they come back, and that's what counts. I always like to talk about Youth Exchange. Youth Exchange is one of my favorite programs in Rotary, and I would love to see your club become involved in it. I think you were involved several years ago, is that correct, in the program?
Yeah.
And I think with the number of members you have, it's not beyond the reach of you financially. There are some challenges, as we know, in regards to host families and so on. But my club with 42 members has been involved with Youth Exchange for as long as I've been a member, and we just think it's great. And I spent this last weekend at CBEC with 35 young Rotarian exchange students from around the world at the orientation meeting. I'll tell you, it's a really uplifting thing to see all these young people together. And there are comments made that if every young person of that age could be an exchange student, every young person in the world, you wouldn't have to be worrying about peace and conflict, because they learn so much about getting along with each other. We are getting better. We used to have 60 members, 60 kids outbound and inbound. We're down to 35, but we have 5 new clubs this year that are back into the program, so hopefully that will improve. And I urge you to think about it, even if you think about the short-term program. I looked at the club website, and we talked about various programs that you're involved with the support of polio eradication, and you're very involved with scholarships, which I believe the funds are raised at your auction for that, about $20,000, which is great. And you do support the Courage Classic, which is a big event in this part of the world, and really all the clubs in this area support it. And you're involved with polio eradication. So keep up the good work. You're doing a great job, and we all appreciate that. All right, President Gary Wong chose as his theme for the current year, Light Up Rotary. And this theme has a strong message to Rotarians all over the world, but it had a slightly different meaning to the people in Washington State and Colorado this year. But President Wong said, how you light up Rotary is up to you. You know where you are strong and what your community needs are and where you can help. And he's also encouraging all the clubs to participate in what he calls Rotary Days, to promote Rotary in your community and try to tell people what Rotary is all about, because that's very often a very well-kept secret. Another thing that district governors always do is promote their conference, and my conference this coming spring will be in Nanaimo, BC. There's a little bit of promotional material on the table, a picture of me in my little car years and years ago. The caricature is not years and years ago. But we would look forward to you coming to Nanaimo, and I know that we'll be promoting that over the next few months. Scott will be, and I will be as well, so that's very important. Our district 5020 is a very large district. It's an honor to be the district governor, but it's big. It's 5,000 members and 88 clubs, which is the 4th largest district in the world. And the other 3 larger districts are in Asia. And in Asia, when districts get large, Rotary International arbitrarily chops them into two or moves clubs around to reduce their size. And I sat next to a fellow in San Diego where all the district governors get together in January each year, and he was from India. And I was telling him that I had 88 clubs in my district. He said when I became the district governor nominee 2 years ago, I had 145 clubs in my district. And he said when I become the district governor, I will have 45 clubs in my district. So they chopped the district into 3. And they won't do that in North America. They do talk to district governors. I don't know, Bob, did they talk to you when you were the district governor? They think we're too big. They think we should be cut down or have something done. But we kind of think all of our club members, or all of our clubs are like members of our family, and we like it the way it is. So we're not going to see the change. And of course, one of the things we really enjoy about our district is the fact that it encompasses both the United States and Canada. I think that's really great. So we're going to keep it the way it is. The last thing I touch on is the progress that I've made from being a Rotary member through various positions that I held up to district governor. And I always encourage members of clubs to take part in their committees and take advantage of the opportunity to become committee members in their clubs. And then at some point in time to move on to the district level where you meet a lot of very interesting Rotarians and you learn a great deal about Rotary. It's an interesting progression. And I do then tell a story about Rotary progression. There was a past district governor from Washington State who loved to hunt ducks. One year he went to a hunting camp in British Columbia and went out with a guide and a Labrador Retriever. And when he asked the guide the dog's name, he was told the dog's name was Rotary member in honor of the district governor. He was a good retriever for a young dog, and the past district governor was impressed. The next year, past DG returned and was greeted by the same guide and the same dog. Past DG was told that the dog was getting better as he matured, and his name had been changed to club president, and he was better. Third year came along and the same thing happened, but now the dog was phenomenal, and his name had been changed to assistant governor, and he really was good. The past DG was amazingly impressed and assured the guy he would be back again the next year, and he did come back. When he came back for the fourth time, he met the same guy, but was shocked to find he had a different retriever. He asked the guide what had happened to the faithful dog he had used for the past 3 years, and the guide said, well, we gave the dog one more promotion and called him district governor. And now all he does is sit on his backside and bark. So I've just about finished barking today, but I do want to say thank you to Bruce and to Scott and the other presidents and assistant governors. When we lead up to our start of our year, there's quite a bit of planning goes into the project, and this year we did it for the first time on the computer. And it was an interesting study for a lot of us, but it was a great deal of help, and I do thank you both for that. And remember that your district governor and your assistant governor and the district council are there with one goal in mind, and that is to help the clubs, to work with the clubs. We don't dictate to the clubs about running their club. They all run them differently, and that's one of the pleasures that I have, is seeing how clubs are different, and I learn an awful lot of good ideas from the various clubs that I visit. So just remember that one thing. And when I finished my speech yesterday in Gig Harbor, I asked Scott if I had missed anything, and he said yes. Several opportunities to sit down. So I thank you very much.